Hello, hola Dom.
Hola, it's so good to see you.
So good to see you too. It's a pleasure to have this time for us to talk a little bit about our experience and the things that we are weaving as a cohort. So I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. Let's get into it.
How do you feel about talking about how do we define actionable solidarity since we're talking about all of this and the political context and all of that? Um, what does it look like and sound and feel for your work for the people that you are part of and also represent in this cohort?
Yeah, I think prior to this cohort, I think I would have said like we're in solidarity with other movements just by nature of being progressive organization who we do disability rights and justice work, but it is inherently intersectional with racial justice. And um, but I don't know that I fully understood like what it means to do solidarity in action. So I think like having now been going through this for the last year together, I think I think about actionable solidarity as like how do we really how do we show up for each other and our communities with a commitment um to collective liberation. I think that the commitment piece is the key because the commitment to me means action, and that is like I think it's in the work, but also in like how we operate as organizations, our culture, our like what we say and do publicly, how we communicate, right? Like I think all of that is a part of like actionable solidarity, and it means I think being unwavering in that as well. Because I think we've talked about as a cohort in this moment, there are a lot of organizations who are taking terms like racial equity off of their websites and taking their pronouns out of their bios and doing things to potentially avoid state repression and retaliation and you know unfortunately the potential loss of funding. And for us it's like yeah, like could we take our could we change the language just to like soften it on racial equity and our fight for trans liberation and how that all intersects with disability? Like we probably could. And would it open us up to more funding? Probably, possibly. Um, but I think the actionable solidarity to me is like we have a commitment to our communities, and so not only do we stick with that commitment, but also we have now a cohort of people who are like with us in solidarity as well. So we get to lean on each other and say like, hey, we need help, or what do you think we should do here, right? Like I think that to me is like knowing how to be interdependent in this moment.
For us, we have been really successful on being completely transparent to our youth members, saying, hey, this is the things that we can do because we have the funding, but we also think that is it's not going to put you in any danger. And we would love to do so much more, but we're going to we're going to do this without losing our values, with also being respectful for their needs, and also taking not taking for granted the opportunity that they have given us in terms of the trust that they give us and the vulnerability that they bring to our spaces at La Tejedora. So yeah, I would say that you cannot have actional solidarity without being consequent with what you're saying and what you're doing. So yeah, I think we're definitely aligned with that.
I'm really curious to hear that from to hear this from your perspective, it being in Puerto Rico. Like, do you think there are misperceptions, stereotypes about your work, your community, that might like hinder solidarity efforts, and if there are barriers that you'd need to seek to tear down.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of misperceptions about who we are in terms of identity. I don't know if you heard that Bad Bunny is gonna be at the halftime show at the Super Bowl next year, and a lot of Americans have been like, "Oh, Puerto Ricans are not U.S. citizens," and we are like, "Hey, we exist. We are U.S. citizens." So it's like things like that, just our existence, our identity is always put in question, and it's always like, who are you, what is your relationship to the US, and it's always like this narrative on why you should matter to us, right? So what we have been doing and we have been building at La Tejedora is um we provide tools to our youth in terms of like, this is who we are, and we need to be proud about ourselves, and we have to honor that we also have a diaspora that is also important in the conversation, and that there's a lot of misperceptions of the role of la diaspora in terms of the work that we do here. But we have that's what we are weaving. We're weaving trust between those who have left the island and those who's still here. And we are always trying to um, put ourselves in the middle of the conversation in a respectable and educational way of saying, hey, we exist. We deserve human rights. Um, Not because we cannot vote for the president, it means that we are less humans or we deserve less rights. So I think that that's a conversation that it is always connected with the colonial and political situation of Puerto Rico when it comes to the misperceptions that our youth confronts when we do the work that we do.
I mean, I just think so many movement organizations in the continental US don't hear about we don't hear about y'all at all, and it does feel like Puerto Rico is like sort of siloed into its own thing, and I'd imagine it's similar with funders because it's I hear which I really like about Solidarity Collaborative is because I hear funders all the time say they only do the continental US, which is like so anyway, I'm really thank you for shining a light on that. And I think like for us, we experience like some, and I'm thinking about disability community in particular, like experience some similar sort of like people not really thinking about the disabled people. And oftentimes disability issues are sort of like thought as separate. Like disability is its own separate thing. It's kind of like over here. And that's in part, I think, because the charity model of disability and the medical model of disability have been like very the prominent models. And so when it comes to like being a nonprofit or like it's been a lot of like the foundations that try to cure specific disabilities, or if it's disability rights, it's been just like advocate to kind of your typical advocacy, like trying to shift policy, when there is a decent segment of the work that it gets 0.1% of philanthropic dollars that is actually focused on the liberatory work of disabled people. And so like we get so, in our like little part of the sector, we get very little funding, but also I think other movement organizations don't think about disability for the same reasons. It's sort of seen as separate. So I think that's like maybe not like a stereotype or misperception, but maybe just like a similarly like a lack of understanding or knowledge that like disabled people are a part of every community. And so if we're gonna do, if we're talking about, Black liberation, Black disabled people actually make up the majority of disabled people in this country. And if we're talking about like, you know, trans liberation, like there's a very high percentage of trans disabled folks. Like disabled people are a part of every community. So I think that is like sometimes what hinders I think efforts for this for people to be in like orgs and movements to be in solidarity with the disability community. And then I will say like unfortunately largely in the like historically in the disability community, it has been like cis heterosexual white folks leading disability rights, and they don't have that like kind of intersectional cross movement lens. So that's also hindered our community's ability to be in solidarity with other movements too. So there's a lot of that, like, whether intentional or not, the need for like more education and more understanding.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. It's super insightful. I think that when it comes to a lot of these barriers and misperceptions, it is education, you know, it's the base of everything. We have to educate people and we have to be patient because education takes time.
Yeah,
But I think that if we do that in a siloed and separately, it's going to take longer. That's why it's important for us to keep integrating all of our perspective into the work that we're doing. And
absolutely.
also, I just want to have like a privilege of saying to you like you know, thank you again for the open doors that you have let, so we could intentionally include disabled people, youth disabled people here in Puerto Rico in the programming that we are shaping. I think that have we have a lot of things to learn, and that comes with, you know, being humble and say, hey, I have a lot of things to learn from you. So thank you for that. And I was curious about what opportunities do you see like coming toward your community that could like keep showing that intentional solidarity? I know that we have a lot of things in the pipeline, but if you could mention some opportunities or things that you see as opportunities, what would you say those are?
Yeah. I do want to say before I say that, I want to thank you too, because we've been talking a lot internally at my organization about
goal. We just have different ideas on how to get there. And these safe spaces provide that opportunity.
This has been so great to get to chat for a while. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to see you and to talk to you, Tom. Thank you.